So guys, in today's video we're going to be going through my Hypercrypt Legion list, 2000 points, just my list guys. It might not be the best list, it might not be the worst list, but give me your feedback down in the comments down below. Let me know on how to improve the list, yeah, with your guidance. Anyway, let's break into this list then. Hypercrypt Legion, of course we've got the hyperphasing ability, and it has recently-ish been nerfed, hasn't it? Where we can only use up to 2 units in Strike Force missions now, or Strike Force detachments now, where it used to be 3, where we could hyperphase off the board at the end of your opponent's turn. Now it's only 2. Right, let's start this list off then. We've got a Warlord, of course, and it is Illumina Zaraz. Illumina Zaraz. Don't normally use him, but I've been using him recently with Hypercrypt Legion, with his shenanigans with, well, the AP, the extra AP you get for units within 6, the Battleline Units that is, and the extra defense with the AP as well. And he's like a mini Catan. He's durable. He can fight. He can shoot. He's got easy access to loan up. And as we already mentioned, he's going to be assisting those Battleline Units. So I think he's a decent option. Now, I'm going to talk about the stratagems as we go through, like we did in the previous video. In fact, if you've missed that video, it was the Star Shatter Arsenal video, my 2000 point list there. If you missed that, put that onto your saved area on YouTube and go back and check that out later on. But what we did is, there's 6 stratagems in the detachment, of course, and I'm going to try to utilise the 6 in the best possible way for my list. And one of those ways is right now, with the Cosmic Precision stratagem. I think using it on Illumina Zaraz may be the way to go because of, well, you kind of have to wait until the end of the list to realise what I'm trying to do with this. There are other factors and other things that it's going to combo up with. But yeah, just bear this one in mind, Cosmic Precision, where we can deep strike in. It's now 6 inches, not 3 inches away from enemy units, but we can't charge. So that's 175 points for our Warlord. Next we have got a Chronomancer for 65 points, and we're adding a 20 point enhancement, which is the Osteoclave Fulcrum. And this is the enhancement that allows his unit to have the deep strike ability. So we'll find out later on which unit will be deep striking with the Chronomancer. Now of course the deep strike ability in general in this detachment is going to be quite good because we can hyperphase out and then re-deep strike in when we want to. And as for the Chronomancer himself, well, he can allow the unit to move after shooting. So in theory, you do your deep strike, you do your shooting, and then you can move with the Chronomancer ability, which is kind of cool. There's also the -1 to enemy attacks, which is kind of cool really, -1 to hit there. And obviously that could stack alongside Illumina Zaraz if you're nearby, if it's a Battleline unit that is. Third one on the list here, third character, we've got a Locust Lord. I love Locust Lords at the moment. And I've got I think it's called the Lord's Blade, not the Overlord's Blade. So I need to change that on my screen there if I remember. Let me know if I forget. Resurrection Orb, as always. And the enhancement, the second one of this list, is the Dimensional Overseer. So this is the one where you get an additional unit to hyperphase into Strategic Reserves. We used to have 3 anyway. But with the nerf, we kind of have to pay for the 3 now at 25 points. Sticking it on my Locust Lord, yeah, gives us 3. Good little option, especially for your secondary objective scoring. And if you've got deep strikes and stuff, it will be very handy throughout the game. Now, of course, Locust Lords have the critical hits on a 5+, so depending on what Locust Destroyer unit you've got, whether it's heavies or standard ones, he's going to be assisting with those critical hit rolls. If you're going to be hyperphasing in, it will be off the side of the table edge. It won't be deep strike unless you're using Cosmic Precision maybe, but it will gain line of sight potentially with his unit. Fourth character within the list is a Plasmancer, and I've got the third and final enhancement, which is the Horizon Tyrant. That's probably the best enhancement in my opinion in this detachment. As soon as you enter, well, in fact, you just get to reroll hit rolls of a 1 for the unit, and if you set up on the battlefield that turn with that unit, you just get to reroll all the hit rolls instead. That's going to be super handy and super aggressive, especially if you are, again, hyperphasing. Again, we'll talk about which unit he's going to go with in a moment, in fact. But yeah, critical hits on a 5+, same as the Locust Lord. And he's also got his own little point his finger and kill kind of stuff, with the Plasmic Lance, and I forgot the name of the ability now. What's the ability called? The Living Lightning ability, isn't it? That's the one. Yeah, Living Lightning ability. You can do mortal wounds on a 4+. Right, let's get back onto the list then. We've got one more character within this list. I tend to go with 5, as I explained in the previous video. I think 5 is an okay number. But yeah, I've got a Transcendent Catan. I've got a Catan in the list. Now, I'm aware that you can't use Cosmic Precision on Transcendent Catan, but I do like having a Catan in this kind of list. It can do virtually everything. It's very durable with a 5+ Feel No Pain save. It's halving damage, got the in-1 save, plenty of wounds, a decent toughness as well. We don't necessarily need to use his teleporting ability because of the hyperphasing. However, if you do deep strike it, then you still have the opportunity to charge. Whereas if you were to use his ability, then you've effectively advanced, so therefore you can't charge. So there is a little bit of an extra bonus to having a deep strike Catan in this kind of list, and you've got the option of doing either or. So that is the 5 characters I've got, and as I said in the previous video, I like 5. It gives your opponent the option of assassination, which is sort of like dangling a carrot saying, do you want to do assassination? Do you want to do assassination? Because you can max out on assassination, but they've literally not quite got to table you, but they've almost got to table you. That's 5 characters, that's 5 units. And yeah, it's quite hard to do. If you do any more than 5, I think you're just gifting it away. And 4 isn't quite tempting enough. So 5 can really mess up their plans because now they're not going to be going tactical, or if they were going fixed, maybe you've changed their fixed game plan up completely. So yeah, dangling that carrot sometimes is a good thing. Okay, on to the Battleline units next. Of course there are going to be some because we've got Luminous Ares. I've got 2 identical units of Immortals. Now, I normally take them with the Tesla. But in this situation, you go with the Gauss blasters. Reason being, they're -1 AP. They're going to go to -2 AP if you're near Luminous Ares. Now, even with cover, it's still -1 AP, which is kind of why I tend to not go with the Gauss blasters, because cover makes it go to near 0 AP. It's kind of pointless, but when you've got a Luminous Ares next to them, or nearby, it has some form of OC AP. So yeah, 2 identical squads of 10-man Immortals. One of the units will be led by a Plasmancer. So that Plasmancer is going to give critical hits on a 5+ for the lethal hits, which is pretty good. And the other one will be with the Chronomancer. And that Chronomancer, I've got to remind myself of the enhancement now. It's the Deep Strike ability. So yeah, one unit's got the Deep Strike ability. One unit's going to have the re-rolls to hits as soon as they enter. Don't forget, Immortals re-roll wound rolls naturally. And if you're firing on objectives, you're going to get to re-roll all the wound rolls rather than just wound rolls of a 1. So yeah, 2 identical units there. I've got a stratagem in mind for the Immortals, which is the Hyperphasic Recall stratagem, which is 2 command points in your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase. And there's a little bit of a spoiler here, but I need to mention it now. If you lose a model, you can basically teleport them to the monolith. There will be a monolith in this list. So yeah, just lose a single model. Bang, off they go. See you later, moving the rest of the unit, all the OC, all the guns, everything else, bang, moving it away. Now, it might not necessarily need to be used on the Deep Strike unit, because they can just hyperphase and Deep Strike in, but it could be. You never know, it could be. But yeah, 2 Battleline units. Again, we've spoken about Luminous Ares. It's also good for their defense with the AP, and there's a lot of OC combined there. So that is all the Battleline units. Then we're coming on to the other units that are available, and we're going to start this one off with the Canoptic Reanimator. This is because of all the bodies we've got on the list. There's all the Immortals we've got. There's going to be some more as well. I think he's just it's an okay option. I kind of use it as a bit of an action monkey, but you can also be using it to hyperphase. With that Feel No Pain save, it becomes semi-durable. I know there's no end run save, but the Feel No Pain save does help. And if it isn't destroyed, it pretty much always will have double reanimation in our command phase. So you're a minimum of 2 wounds coming back, potentially 6 coming back. It's not too bad if they don't destroy it. But yeah, for me, doubling up as an action monkey for 75 points is not too bad. Next, we've got 2 units of 5-man Deathmark units. or deathmark squads with the snipers, of course. I don't tend to use them for the snipers. I prefer them for the deep strike ability, popping them in, doing the actions, doing the behind enemy lines and so on. Maybe if you're playing fixed, you can just take behind enemy lines and establish locust. But even if you're playing tactical, they can still do those objectives and other ones that you pull. They're very useful, especially in the hyperphase or hypercrypt legion, because you can hyperphase them out and then put them back in where you want them to go. Maybe on your next turn you get area denial and you just pop them in the middle, and then if they're alive again you can pick them up again, and so on. Keep doing things. They get their points back just by scoring secondaries. If you wanted to change it up, you've got 10 snipers there. 10 snipers that can go against the character with precision. It's your call, really. On to the next unit, which is Flayed Ones. Flayed Ones, they've got a 5-man unit, 60 points. You're going to be infiltrating them, that's what they do. Infiltrate on the no man's land, probably the centre objective. Get onto an objective nice and early. Hope for a secondary card that relates in your first pull. Again, it could be area denial, it could be extend battle lines, for example. They can score you some nice early turn 1 points, but they're also going to be there and ready for turn 2 for your scoring, unless they're of course dealt with. But now you're forcing your opponent's hand. They've got to deal with the Flayed Ones, otherwise they're scoring primary straight away from turn 2, and they're not even that expensive at 60 points. They're also going to operate as an anti-infiltrate unit, because of course if you put down first in the no man's land when you're deploying, then your opponent can't do the same within 9 inches if they've got their own infiltrate unit. Of course the reverse applies if they drop first. We then can't deploy within 9 inches and so on. And finally, to mention stealth. Stealth probably helps them a little bit if they do get shot at early, so they're probably going to be scoring and then leaving the battlefield. We've then got the Locust Heavy Destroyers, 6-man unit of course. I love these guys at the moment, so dependable with a Locust Lord, 5+ critical hits with their lethal hits because of their Gorse Destroyers. And they're just killing stuff. If you're shooting stuff on objectives, so if you've positioned yourself correctly, they're just removing stuff off objectives, re-rolling ones, lethal hits. Yeah, it gets kind of good with Locust Destroyers. That's why I pretty much take them in most of my list nowadays. Speaking of Locust Destroyers, we've gone with the heavy variant as well. Only 2 though, because of points. We've got 2 here for 110 points. I've got the Gorse Destructors, the big damage 6 weapons. I like them. These aren't singles, by the way. This is a unit of 2. I started doing that towards sort of the back end of last year because someone in the comments notified me that, well, it's much better to have them in 2s than 1s because you still get reanimation protocols, which is good. But the other reason is they can't naturally fail battle shock. Well, they don't get a battle shock test, in fact, because in your command phase, you can't get them below half strength. If you take away one of them, then they're still at half strength. They're not below half strength, and if you take 2 of them away, well, they're gone. Doesn't matter, right? So they're always going to have their OC and potentially using stratagems if you wanted them to. So I take them in 2s now, which I think is good if I'm using other anti-tank and anti-monster units within lists. But we do need some anti-tank here, so I've gone with some of those for now. Ideally you do want more, or you even want a Doomsday Arc or something, but the points just wouldn't allow for it. But yeah, that's what we've got. And of course the final unit within this list, as we've already mentioned, is the Monolith. The Monolith will provide some anti-tank. It's got the Death Rays, 4 of those, as well as the Particle Whip, which is pretty decent, 3d6 shots. That's kind of nice, anti-infantry there. And even the Portal of Exile does a bit of work, it really does. Now, there's 4 stratagems that could relate, maybe even 5 potentially, that will relate to a Monolith, but I picked a few out that I want to use. Quantum Deflection is a definite, it's a gimme, isn't it? You're going to get a 4+ invulnerable save for 1 CP in a shooting or fight phase. You use that most times, really. Well, maybe not most times, because the AP might not be strong enough to need it, because you've got a 2+ armor save, haven't you? So sometimes you don't actually need it. It's when it's -3 AP or more is when the invuln would kick in. But the other stratagem, Entropic Damping, which is where you're turning enemy units' weapons in with hazardous basically. I think it can be brutal. It is very dependent on the situation, but if you pull it at the right time, yeah, it can get quite messy. putting hazardous on larger units especially. As this is the Hypercrypt Legion and the Monolith of course is the main focus piece of this list, we're going to be making maximum use of this Eternity Gate. We've got ways of bringing those Immortals in naturally with the Eternity Gate ability. We've got the Stratagem as we spoke about earlier, the Hyperphasic Recall. We've got Cosmic Precision, which I probably want to save with Illuminazares to be honest. But with the Immortals, we've got one of them can Deep Strike anyway. The Monolith can Deep Strike. Illuminazares can Cosmic Precision. And then if we can Eternity Gate the other unit of Immortals, we can have a large castle somewhere on the battlefield. Now in some games that's not going to work. If you're playing against a really cluttered list, maybe it's a crap load of Orc Boys, crap load of Demons, whatever. If you've come up against a Horde kind of list, Tyranids, you're probably not going to be able to pull this off. But if you're coming up against Imperial Knights, sometimes Space Marines, low model count units or armies, then you should be able to pull this off. You just clump the entire thing into the no man's land, take over the centre. Lots of buffs coming from Illuminazares, lots of shooting bonuses, and then you can hyperphase them out when you need to. I think that's the game plan with this. And having it all in a dangerous position where we can score loads of points while being still quite killy, I think makes it quite fun. But that is the list in a nutshell, and it is dead on 2,000 points. Yeah, guys, let me know how I can improve my list down in the comments below, and if you're using a list similar, also let me know and let me know how you're doing with it. But yeah guys, thank you all for watching and I will see you in the next one.